Hi, it's Dean from Maverrik, and I am joined today by the infamous, and I'm going to let him explain why I mean infamous, and he probably doesn't know why I'm saying infamous, Simon Miles, who is our Managing Director of our London office. Simon, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
How have you found being in Plymouth?
It's awesome. I love it. It's great to see where all the magic happens, because I've been seeing it now on the Zoom or Google or whatever it's been for the last few months. But yeah, it's awesome.
And we've only met, this is our second meeting in person.
Yeah.
So before we get into this, let's have a little talk about your background. You've done TV. Yeah,
in the 90s for BBC around currency. So my background started in financial markets, foreign exchange. 96 I got into it, which was 25 guys in a room, 25 foot by 10 foot, all on the phones, 8 hours a day, selling to the yellow pages, foreign exchange services, when it just began. Chairs are for bears.
Telephone terrorist,
you know, smile while you dial, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I did that for a few years.
So how does it feel to be joining Maverrik that basically says we don't cold call?
Well, it's a breath of fresh air, because I think when we first met, I think one of the first things I said was to you, because I was a client, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I said, cold calling is dull. You know, it's dull. It's hard work. It's never been harder, because there's so many ways for people to block it. People aren't receptive to it. They resent the fact that you got through to them. You know, people who tell you they enjoy cold calling, I'm not so sure. You know, and it's nice having a warm one where you kind of know somebody and they've suggested you call. But pure cold calling is hard work. And I was convinced that in 2021 there had to be a better way. We've got all of these platforms, social media, in abundance. You got it for consumers, we got it for businesses. There had to be a better way, but I hadn't found it. And I remember on our first call, I was like, listen, I've sat in front of 5 agencies, you know, I don't think this is going to work, but someone said I had to come to the call, so here we are. And you did. You blew me away. You kind of ratified everything that I was searching for. You know, there had to be a better way to build a relationship. There had to be a better way to get in front of a decision maker without going, me, you know, sort of what your challenge is, you know. So, yeah.
So you've had your conversion. You've seen the light. How do you think, and I'm going to ask you the difficult question that we haven't scripted because that's me. When we're on calls with people, they say, oh, we've used LinkedIn, we use email, we use social media. One of the biggest things is getting people to know what they don't know. Why do you think there's such a resistance to social selling?
I think there's an addiction in a sales environment, particularly where I come from in the city. It was all about activity. The louder, the more bustling the noise, the more intense the atmosphere in the room, the better we were doing. We used to call it rent a busy office. So like if a client was coming, we'd all be on it and, you know, on the phones, and they'd walk out. You know, it was kind of like, and I think a sales manager or a founder or an owner or a managing director, they like to see that. It instills confidence in them. So we've had a good day. That's all gone well. But it might not have done. You might have spent 6 hours talking to nobody, trying to get through to people, having conversations where the person at the end of the call said, look, that's just not for me, but you've been on the phone all day. So there's that reticence to it. There's that kind of, this is just the soft seller, people just clicking around the internet. It's just an excuse not to do much at all. But I think if you get over that and you can realise actually there's a huge amount of power in a platform that's got 750 million people on it. Whether some people don't like engagement, whether some people are there for different reasons, but a lot of people there are to say, this is what I do in my business. This is what I do for a living. And they use it for what it was meant for, which was a B2B networking environment. And you don't just go in and go, hey, you're who I need. I'll tell you about me and me and me and me and me, and can we have a meeting? If you don't do it like that and you use it, which selling should be about finding the need, selling should be about inquiring with the other person about what they do, how they do it. Can I help you make that more efficient? Can I help you save more money on that area? If you use it like that, then it can be incredibly powerful. And I had never found anyone who knew how to do that. I'd never found anybody who could do that. And once I found that, I felt that it was going to be. And obviously that's where our relationship started and where it's grown from.
So all those people who are just sending those, and you get them, I get them, everybody gets them. There's two types of messages that people are sending through social media. There's the "How are you?" which sounds like a dating app.
You care. Yeah.
And then there's the other ones where it's long pitches. Why do people keep doing that, even though, and the cold calling, why do people keep doing it when the success rate is minuscule?
I think because you get to go home at night feeling like you've done something. I think there's a false economy in it. So I sent out 5 messages. I haven't suffered the rejection yet, so I still have the hope that it's going to work. So there's that piece. I can go home tonight feeling like the day was okay. Because the moment they come back and say not interested, that's over. So there's that piece. There's the addiction to being busy. And we used to call them, when I in sales training, it's busy fools. You know, the guy, the person in the sales office is doing loads on the phone, but they're not actually creating anything. They're just very busy. So there's that element of it. And I think people, it's a hard struggle to pull away from that. I don't think social selling is a complete replacement for the traditional channels. But I think if you can mix it up with an element of networking, with an element of, not cold calling, but if someone's giving you a direct line or they've given you an in to somebody, they've warmly introduced you and suggested you give them a call, yeah, I would pick up the phone and call those people. But then the complementary aspects of social selling, and I think the more you get into it and the more you make it work for yourself, the more it becomes the larger part of what you're doing. And like I said, you know, I use this example all the time. If you went to a networking event, you wouldn't walk through the front door, find the first person you saw, run up to them, tell them everything about yourself and ask them if they wanted to have a 30-minute meeting. You wouldn't do that. And yeah, that's what people do on LinkedIn, because they kind of feel like, well, I've got the audience, he's captured, that person's got to receive my message, so I'm going to get one chance and one chance only.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing. And so I get these messages, we get them all the time. Me. Maybe you, but more me.
Yeah.
Can we have a chat? You don't even know what I do. And the other worst one is people come on and sell me the same thing I'm selling.
Yeah.
And I actually go back and say, have you actually read my profile before you know?
So here's a thought. I often say this on our live events, and it's often a lot of your customers don't, whatever industry, finance, technology, whatever industries and verticals you're in, a lot of the customers don't actually know they need you. And it's only through the relationship can you, like you said it a few minutes ago about, you know, churning out messages, me. It's only through conversation that you can actually help show a customer that they need you. Do you think, well, I know your answer to this, but what do you think about the people? What do you think is missing from people who are churning this stuff out? Because for me, it feels like sometimes there's a disconnect with, okay, should I be pursuing and chasing down people who need our service right now, which effectively is a transactional sale, because I'm looking for somebody who's looking for me at that very moment, like needle in a haystack? Or do you think there's an opportunity, if you invest in relationship, that you can open people up to a product that they weren't even considering?
Yeah, I do, because it doesn't matter what you're doing, what you've got, what you use, there are great points about it, and there are some, perhaps if I could improve that. Nothing is ever perfect, right? So nobody most people don't know they need you, but they do know that there are, certain aspects of what they're currently doing that could be better. So sales is never about telling you what I do. It's never about that. We used to say it's having a toolbox. You don't take a hammer to break a table. You take the spanner that fits the nut. And it's the same kind of thing. It's like, well, okay, you have this and I happen to sell that. But tell me about the challenges that are currently operating within using that particular product that you've got. What could be better? What does annoy you? What doesn't work as efficiently as you need it to? Now, as it happens, what I do does all of the things that currently does do just as well, but it also covers this challenge off, and it also stops that interference, and it also covers off that pain point. So that's selling, right? But if you go on to LinkedIn, like I say, and what people tend to do is they just tend to splurge everything onto somebody, and that's just not the way you would do it. So the ability to build a relationship and just find out, what do you do? Tell me about what you do. I like what you said. That's interesting. I agree with that. It could be something completely different. It could be a social interest that you have that's nothing to do with business. It's about building rapport. Before you then say, well, as it happens, this is what I do. I don't know if there's any common ground, but let me explain what I do to you. Let me find out a lot more about what you do and see if there's a way to work together. For me, that's what LinkedIn should be used for. And if you can make that work, it's a fantastic add-on to what you're doing. And that's why I was so interested in it, because in 2021, particularly post-pandemic, when everyone's working out how to be more remote, they're not going in person so much. They realise they don't actually necessarily have to. They can do things remote. 50% of what they did in person, they could probably do remote. So there's a platform where you can create a virtual relationship remotely and do business. It's a win-win.
So, a couple of quick questions, and then we'll ask you about what you're going to be up to from the new office in London. Does a product ever sell itself? And how much does assuming you've got kick-ass product, how much does a relationship really matter if you've got a kick-ass product? What's the element of the salesperson? How much of a relationship does a salesperson need to have with a buyer?
Wow. That's some deep
I told you I don't script
That's some
it.
heavy stuff, isn't it?
So, does a product sell itself?
Well, look, I'm sure the wheel sold itself, right? I'm sure the engine but then you get to like the engine over the horse and cart. That didn't sell itself. Everyone was frightened of that because it was going to go too fast. So I don't think it does sell itself. I think there has to be an ultimate need. If I can find something, what for me sells itself is the ability to get what I need. That sells itself. So I know that product is over there. For me, it's the why Amazon is so successful. It's not they don't have the product that the shop's got. It's that if I need a certain thing, I don't know where to get it, but also I get it when I want. So it solves a problem for me. So if you bring in the service element, and with the service element comes a relationship, the old adage of people buy from people buy from people they like, they don't buy from people they don't like. If you can couple those two up, and you give the user, a customer, a great experience, a great level of service, then you can sell an inferior product that perhaps isn't the best on the shelf. But because the experience, the way it was delivered, the fact it came today, not in 3 weeks' time, it still serves the purpose. It perhaps wasn't. What I'm saying is the product doesn't have to be the best there's ever been.
It doesn't have to be the Rolls Royce.
No, it doesn't have to be the Rolls Royce. What it has to do is it has to do the job well. It has to do the job better than well. It has to deliver over and above what I'm currently using. But it doesn't have to be the top shelf.
So how much do relationships matter in sales in 2021?
I think the relationship still fundamentally matters. I think the journey to get that relationship has changed. It's become more acceptable to create that relationship. Like our relationship was built online. And then the first time we met, there wasn't that piece of, does this fit? Is this going to work? We were more accepting of being able to build that relationship. I think 5 years ago, this is Plymouth. We've come from London yesterday, 4-hour journey. We used to do that for an hour's meeting. When I was selling to large corporates, foreign exchange, treasury management services, I would go to Manchester and I would be with the client 40 minutes and get on the train on the way back. And I couldn't have done it another way. It was the only way to build the relationship. Now, I still think that there's an element of that has to come into maybe the pro-sale, the upsale, the development of the relationship as you grow together and you do more together. I think that's still fundamentally important, but I think it's become much more acceptable to build a relationship online, if you will, outside of the face-to-face. I will allow you to do that. I'm comfortable with you doing that. Now, has the pandemic helped that? Probably a great deal. But also, it's sign of the times. We are much more virtual. We're much more technology orientated. We're much more, it's about 3 buttons on my phone and I'm done. So there's an acceptance. So I think the need for a good relationship hasn't changed. how we get there and what's acceptable to me as the buyer has changed.
Okay, so final question. I keep saying final question before I ask you about London, but this is the final question before I ask you about London.
Okay.
Is there anybody or any level of seniority that you think is unachievable to talk to through social media?
No.
That was quick.
Yeah. I could give you good job we have editing capabilities. As my old sales manager used to say, everyone sits down to shit. Don't matter who they are.
Yeah.
But the answer is no. The answer is no. Look, some people, there are gatekeepers, but there are methods.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to talk to Richard Branson, he's not doing his own LinkedIn posts, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not, maybe he's monitoring it, maybe he's looking at it, maybe he has a much more vested interest on his smartphone when he's on a plane or on an island than he will be to answer a call. So is there a strategy? And it's going to take time, and it's going to, it's going to take thought and intelligence and creativity. But I don't think there is. Everyone's on social media. Everybody is looking at something. It might not be the channel LinkedIn. It might be Instagram. It might be something else. There might be another medium. And it might take incredible timing, and it might take incredible luck. But nobody's out of reach, no.
Perfect. So, Simon, based in London, but you're not exclusively working in London. It's just
just outside, southwest London.
What's your plan?
Our plan is to tell the world about how to sell in 2021. Our plan is to change the way people think. I think from the people we've started talking to already and the people that we've already brought on board, I think there's an acceptance that they know they need to do something differently, but they just didn't know how. And I think if you said LinkedIn, yeah, I've tried that, but I can't get away from the fact that it has to work. It can't not work. You got 750 million people on a platform doing business. There's got to be 50 of them that will do business with you. The law of averages says that. The probability tells me that. So everyone we're talking to doesn't know how, so we show them how. We show them a better way, a more efficient way, a complementary way. So what are we going to be doing in London? We are going to be spending the next 6 months talking to, telling, via utilising our own strategies on LinkedIn and our own network. Some huge companies, some medium companies, some owner-drivers, some founders like me who were there starting up, needed to do selling, needed to do business development, didn't have big budgets to hire, didn't want HR resource, didn't want to have those issues. So it's going to be a huge mix, and we're just going to focus on building the business for the next 6 months and telling as many people what they should be doing in 2021. What's the best way forward?
Awesome. So if you want to get in touch with Simon, you want to have a conversation with Simon, we'll put his details on screen. And watch out, because in September, October, we're going to be launching some more in-person events in London. But from us at Maverrik, thank you for watching, and we'll see you really, really soon.